Hey everyone, Mr. Davitt here. Once again, I have some more updates in regards to the exam. We are now 2 weeks from exam day. It's going to come sooner than we think. And AP has now provided basically all the information we're going to need to complete the exam. And this hopefully will serve as kind of a timetable and also things for you to think about, especially because this is such new territory and we're not quite sure how this is going to go. So, anyways, just a reminder the exam is in 2 weeks, Friday, May 15th at 11 a.m. Obviously, will be done virtually. Just one more time in case you missed it. It's another time just in case. Oh, okay, one more. All right, so again, I'm joking, but at the same time, this date should be ingrained in your head. This time should be ingrained in your head. You should be fully aware that this is the expectation for the exam. So let me give you some general updates. So this is posted in Google Classroom, but this is a specific web page that College Board AP has created in regard to the AP 2020 test. There's schedules on there, calendars on there, all that kind of stuff. Again, I've shared that with you, but just kind of an FYI, this is where you'll go if you need to access something or you're not quite sure. Again, hopefully I'm your first resource, but if not, you can use this as well. Okay, what you're going to get is an AP ID that is coming for you on May 4th in an email. Your AP ID is the same number no matter how many AP exams you're taking. So if this is the only AP exam you're taking, that's fine. But if you're taking like 4 APs, your AP ID is exactly the same. So that's kind of a number you'll refer to often. The difference, though, this year is that for each individual exam, you're going to be given a separate e-ticket. This will not be the same for each one of the exams, so you're going to get, like one for AP US History, and then if you're taking, AP English or whatever, you get a separate e-ticket for that. So it's important that you understand that that's kind of the way this is going to go and work itself through. So this will be separate. This will be different. The other thing that College Board came out with this week is the test taking guide. This is a huge document, and I've gone through it already. I went to a webinar thing the other day where they went through it a little bit more, so kind of some key points. I have posted it on Google Classroom for your reference. However, the main point of this presentation in PowerPoint is for me to kind of give you what I think are the big key points, so you don't necessarily have to search through the document real hard, because I'd rather you do other things at this time. But the information is still important for you to keep an eye on. Okay, so let me tell you where you should be at this point 2 weeks out from the exam. Your first priority should be on perfecting your AP US History DBQs. So, number one, do you understand the rubric? Are you confident with the rubric, or are there any points that you don't quite understand? As you're writing your practice DBQs, what are you finding the easiest points to hit? What points are you finding harder to hit? What can you do to improve? I'm trying to give a lot of comments on the DBQs, but also return them in a somewhat timely manner. So that means I have to go through a little bit quickly. But at the same time, I am trying to kind of push you in a certain direction individually, because everyone has certain areas that they need to kind of work at. So anyways, that's something to kind of keep in mind here. Okay, the other thing that's AP related at this point in time, and I sent something out in Classroom about this, but this is just another heads up. Are you getting emails from the AP program? Okay, so there should have been some emails you received within the last maybe month or something, and it literally says from Advanced Placement Program. That's the person who sent it. If you are receiving emails, that means you are on the AP email list. That is good. If you have not been receiving emails, that's a problem. You can sign into MyAP. Everyone has a MyAP account because that's how we signed you up for the exam. If you remember, we did that back in like September or October. And then there'll be an email listed there that you put in, and make sure the email listed is correct. And if it's not, obviously, mark the one that is right. I hope that you're probably using your St. Francis one. That just makes more sense with all your classes and academic stuff. But it's technically not a requirement. Um, if the emails listed is right, but you're still not getting emails from AP, make sure the checkbox is checked and it says get updates from AP. Make sure that's checked, because even if your email is right, but you haven't selected that, you're not going to get updates from them. That's a problem. If you're still not sure, still problems, let me know. We can probably figure something out. But that's kind of what we're looking at right now. So that's kind of right now. This is what I want you to look at, and obviously priority number one being basically a better DBQ writer. Okay, a couple other things at this point. Okay, as we're now 2 weeks out, you need to kind of decide at this point in time, how do you want to take the exam and what device you want to use. So computer, laptop, that's probably the preferential choice, but it's not necessarily required, but I think that's probably the easiest. Do you want to use a tablet? Again, you have iPads, you could do that as well. And then the last option is smartphone. Please try to not do this. Looking at documents, trying to annotate documents on a smartphone is really not going to be your best option. So I would much rather steer you in the computer area or the tablet area. And then the other thing is that you obviously have to access the exam electronically through the internet. But my next comment for you that you need to decide is, how do you want to complete your response? So it seems like most of you guys have said you're going to type it, but even let's get kind of nitpicky here. How are you going to type it? Are you going to type it on Word? Are you going to type it on Google Docs? Are you going to use Notes or some other word processing software? Again, this seems kind of trivial, but it's important that you kind of think about this, because you don't have time on the 15th to be deciding what format you're going to use. You're just going to have to go. So please decide that basically at this point. Remember, you do not have to type it. You could technically hand write it on paper. So do you want to do that? Again, that's totally up to you. If you think you're quicker handwriting or whatever else, not a problem there. The last option would be to type on a smartphone or tablet. This, again, would be my least preferred option. It's the least preferred option of the AP. Again, imagine writing a DBQ on a smartphone tablet. It's really not the best case scenario. So I would much rather you either decide to type on the computer, or maybe go into handwriting as opposed to anything else. Okay, the next thing that you do need to make sure, and again, most of you guys, I'm not anticipating a problem, but you need to make sure your browser is compatible. AP suggests you use Google Chrome. However, you can also use Safari, Edge, or Firefox. The one browser that you cannot use is Internet Explorer. It does not work with the exam for whatever reason. So quite a fall from grace from Internet Explorer. It used to be the premier web processing. Now it's nothing. But anyways, it's something to keep in mind in this regard. And then the other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have your extensions disabled. Most notably would be Grammarly. The exam just doesn't work, basically. That's what College Board AP has said, if you have extensions, in particular Grammarly. So just make sure that you're set up and you're okay with that so you can be successful here. Okay, so let me do some other things here to try to kind of ease some fears and maybe make you feel a little more confident about your performance on the exam. Okay, the first thing to realize is that typically the DBQ on a normal AP US history exam is oftentimes the part of the test that the student scores the worst on. That obviously is extremely problematic for this exam cycle because of the fact that it's the only question you get. Okay, don't worry, because what AP is going to determine is basically less points are going to be required to pass with only the one DBQ. What they're going to do is they're going to look at past exams of DBQs. They're going to look at various algorithms. They have experts. They have software, all the rest of that stuff to determine the difficulty. And so basically what we have is that AP will make the necessary adjustments. So remember, the rubric's at a 10. We have no idea what's going to be passing, because really they're going to have to assess the question, run it through the algorithms, run the scores. and all the rest of that stuff, and that will get them a better inclination of what exactly a pass and a not pass will be. So that's good news in that less points are going to be required, and they understand that this is a very hard part of the exam, and that they're going to have to make adjustments in order to make it basically fair. Okay, the next one that's also important is no curves. This is a good thing because what this means is that everyone can technically pass. Some exams or even like college classes are set up in such a way where only a certain percentage can pass, or only a certain percentage can get an A or B, whatever. But that's not the case with AP. So technically you could have a situation where 100% of people pass the exam. Again, extremely unlikely. There are some exams, by the way, with like 90% pass rate because of this idea of like no curves or whatever else. But that's good for you. So technically everyone can pass. There's going to be no weird competition among people or anything like that. So that's always been an AP philosophy that continues to be here. So I just bring this up for your attention. The other thing that's important is remember that in later May, I am getting a copy of your exam, and that's something that AP is doing that's new this year. It's something they've talked about doing, but they haven't really been able to, but now they are going to be able to. So that means I can kind of check your responses, see what you did. And the other thing is that once you get your scores, which is going to be mid-July, I have the ability to challenge your score if I feel that it is not adequate or I feel it's incorrect, etc. So basically what this means is that if you don't pass and I think you should have passed, I can, as a teacher, challenge your score. At this point in time, I have somewhat a rough idea of who I think, will not only pass, but like scores basically. And again, I'm not like an expert by any means, but just, we do practice DBQs. I know your performance in class, whatever else. So that gives me kind of a good indication, and that helps me kind of figure these things out. So if I see something that I think is funky, then I can kind of address that and we can do that successfully. Okay, so with that being said, some inspiration. Oh, yes. Some more. What about this one? Bob Ross. That's very interesting. I know it's not AP art, but still good. Okay, this one also big. We're almost there. We can do this. As far as schedule goes, here's a couple reminders, a couple things to keep on your radar. On Monday, May 4th, which is this upcoming Monday, you're going to get an email from AP, and that's going to have your AP ID in it. And again, you'll really want to keep on to this because you're going to be using this for all your AP exams. Remember, the AP ID is the same one across all exams. The other thing that you're going to get in that email is you're going to get all the AP exams that you're signed up for. Now, what College Board has said is that because of the new format, whatever else, at this point in time, if you are not enrolled for an exam, you cannot be added. Okay, but again, I'm not anticipating any problems. We all registered, no problems there, whatever. But if for some reason you get the email and you're enrolled in an exam that you have no idea what that's about, let me know. I'll talk to Mr. Peltier or something like that. We can kind of address that. Also, if you do not get an email by the end of the day on May 4th, please let me know, because that means your email screwed up for AP. So that we got to address that, because that email is extremely important. And yes, you can get it on the MyAP itself, but I think we'd rather get the efficiency and quickness of the email. Okay, on Tuesday, May 5th, we're going to have class. It's our next scheduled class at 12:15. What we're going to do, well, a few things, but at that time, AP is going to actually have a practice simulation of how to upload the responses. So I'm going to actually carve out time for us to kind of do that together. I mean, you'll do it individually, but actual class time, so I make sure everyone does it. And then that way you can really feel what it's like to upload the responses. It seems so basic, but at the end of the day, this is one of the more important things you'll ever upload in your life. Well, I mean, it's kind of dramatic, but sort of. And it's going to be different, obviously. We've never seen this before, so we have to make sure we know how to do that so we can get rid of that unpredictability. So we know that and there's no problems there. Okay, 2 days before each of your exams. So again, I'm really only focused here on AP US. You're going to get an email from AP. So that would be Wednesday, May 13th. And this is going to have your unique e-ticket. for your AP US History exam. Do not share this with anyone. Do not forward this email, even if you're just forwarding it to, your mom. Oh, look, my e-ticket. Just don't do it. Keep it to yourself. This is only for you. AP has made it very clear that they're looking after for suspected cheating. They're not going to take it lightly because of the format of the exams. So my point here is just don't risk it. Just not worth it. You've worked hard enough. You have a decent shot at passing and whatever else. You're going to get fried if you mess with this. But again, you'll need to make sure you keep on to this so that you have it. Okay, so on exam day, just a few things you will need. Number one, you're going to need your e-ticket. You're going to want it handy. You're going to have to, first off, the way it looks, by the way, is you're going to be able to click it, and then that will take you to the exam, but still keep your e-ticket on file. So that's kind of, so it's there in case you need to look at it. Okay, the other thing that you're going to need is your AP test checklist. Next week, I have a copy of this. I'm going to have you complete it for the AP US History exam. If you have a printer or something, you're going to keep it right next to you the entire time. This is kind of has a couple things about your test, also some troubleshooting stuff in case you run into some issues and problems during the exam. So you're going to want to keep that right next to you during the entire time. You're obviously going to need your device. It needs to be charged. The other thing is just keep it plugged in, okay? You might say, oh, I have a full battery, and then all of a sudden you're taking the exam and you get the, red light about, oh, it needs charging, and oh my God, that's a waste of time. You're risking error and problems. Just keep it plugged in. No reason not to have it plugged in. Just keep it there. That eases some fears, and that's just one less thing to worry about going wrong. Obviously, like I said, you're working browsers, so hopefully you're using Chrome, but you're definitely not using Internet Explorer. And again, you've disabled the extensions. When we do the simulation, you're going to see if your browser works, and then you'll be all set and good to go. The other thing, and again, this is from me, you need a quiet working space. You need a place where you can utilize space and work efficiently here in order to be successful. So you really need to make sure you do that so you can make this work. Okay, optional stuff that I think would be really helpful. I would really keep the rubric out in front of you, printed or in another tab or something like that. So that way you can just kind of, as you're writing, make sure you're hitting the rubric, just kind of return to it. Okay, oh, I missed this point. I need to return. Okay, so doing that kind of stuff is really going to help you out. DBQ Organizer, again, you have a copy of this. I would suggest maybe keeping this out as well, just as far as steps and things like that. If it helps you, I think this could be a good tool to use. And then another thing that you might want to consider is like scratch paper pens. You might want to, even if you're doing it on the computer, you might want to jot some notes down, outline in kind of the traditional hand form. That is all good stuff. So you need to kind of think about what's going to help you be successful in this condensed DBQ time. About your workspace, find a quiet and productive place to work. So I don't know where you've been doing classes, but that's probably where you should continue to do this for the exam. The other thing is, I know houses are real crowded right now, all the families around, a lot of people are working remotely and things like that. So you're not going to be able to get, obviously, everyone out of the house, and it's not really necessary, but I would say tell your family members in the house that you're going to be testing and let them know the times for, obviously, your AP US History exam and then any other AP exams that you're taking. And I hate to be rude here, but just kind of tell them, during this time, please, you need to be left alone. Okay, you need to do your exam. If you got chores or things like that, you can do them later. That's okay. Don't be rude about it, but at the same time, just let them know, this is important and you need to have quiet and you really just can't be bothered during this time. Okay, obviously, you're going to have to utilize Wi-Fi, and at this point, you know how your home Wi-Fi works through this online learning process and things like that. If you have problems with Wi-Fi, I would really suggest everyone to tell basically everyone in the house to please minimize their internet usage during the test. And that will just help minimize the chance of errors. The other thing, though, that I would say, no matter what, even if you have what you think is great Wi-Fi, why don't you tell everyone in the house during your exam time, no Netflix, no Fortnite, the Call of Duty gaming, Disney Plus. These are like high streaming services. They use a lot of internet. So I would just tell the family, hey, look, from 11 to 12, or really 10:30 to 12 on May 15th, just stray away from that. And so that way you don't run the risk of the internet getting overloaded for some reason. Again, I don't think that's going to happen, but just, friendly reminder to the family. Okay, and again, give yourself space. Remember, you can print out the documents and the prompts, something I really think you should do. So you're going to need space to do that. You're going to need space if you do that to write notes on the documents. Or if you just keep it on a tab, you might want notes on scratch paper. Again, you just want to create space for yourself so you can successfully and efficiently take this exam. Okay, so what is allowed, what is not allowed? I've kind of hit on this, but let me make a couple reminders. Allowed, notes, book, outside class material. Remember, all these are open note, open book, open source, whatever, so that's fine. Okay, the other thing that you can use, which I think actually, and I'll talk about this a little bit in timing, is that technically, if you want, you can have a family member or a parent that's in your house help you keep time. So there is a timer that's going to be posted throughout the entirety of the exam, but the responsibility of time is really all on you. So if you think it would be helpful, you can tell, like a family member in your house, hey, at 11:45, come get me and remind me that I need to stop and I need to upload. So that might be a good deal. Again, they cannot offer you any help, anything like that, but at the same time, they can be another check for time if you so choose to do so. So that was something not really mentioned before. Now it has, so I think that's worthwhile to consider. Here are the things that are not allowed. Outside aid/help. No assistance from parents, no assistance from friends, etc. No collaborative help. No calling friends, no texting, no Snapchat, chat rooms, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, I don't know, whatever. It'll make a difference. Okay, just, this is your own exam. Okay, it's not worth it. They're going to find out. All right, again, AP is so secretive that they said they've invested all this money, all this technology, and all these anti-cheating features, and they're not even telling anyone really what the specifics of them, because basically they don't want people to even know. Okay, that's horrifying. But that's showing really what they're doing in order to make sure that this does not go haywire. So something else to keep in mind there. Okay, technically you can use Google or the internet, but at the same time, I would say do not. The reason why, you might accidentally plagiarize, just not worth it. Remember also, you get so few points from outside evidence. It's not worth your time to be Googling around and things like that, because by the time you do that, you're going to miss all the valuable time you need to write the DBQs. You see where your timing is with practice. Very few of you guys are completing the DBQ into 45 minutes. That's not your fault. That's just the nature of this exam and how pressing the time is going to be. So you don't have time to be wandering around the internet trying to search up the prompt and see if you're going to get some, real valuable evidence. You're not going to. It's going to frustrate you, and then all of a sudden, by the time you come back, it's just not going to be worth it. And even if you do find something, that was 1 out of 10 points that you just wasted all this time on. Not worth it. It's not worth it. If anything, you have your notes, you have your books, you have the review handouts, things like that. If you want to look real quick, see, oh yeah, that's right, that's fine. Okay, but anything more than that, you're taking away from that precious time you need to read the docs. My friend Bart Simpson here, reminder, cheating is wrong. Keep calm, do not cheat. You just don't need to. Okay, you're just not worth it, through this whole thing. And again, this reminder, no cheating. And again, College Board has said they're going to report anyone that cheats or attempts to cheat to college admissions office. That is basically going to forbid you from going to almost any college. So don't do this. Okay, the next thing that we do need to talk about is how to submit, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as we move forward. But a couple things to kind of keep in mind here. You got basically 3 options for submitting your exam response. One is to write in a processor and then copy and paste your response directly into the form, and then you click submit, you're done. Okay. The next is to attach a response. So this would have you writing on Google Docs, Word, Notes, whatever you're using. You would save the response as a doc file. That includes for Google Docs. So it's not like Google Classroom where you can automatically attach something from your Google Drive. What you'd have to do is go to Google Docs, save as, doc, and then you'd save it onto your computer, and then you'd go attach it from the computer to the AP thing. You click submit, done. Okay, your next option is really only if you're handwriting the exam, which is to take pictures. So if you're doing this, you handwrite your response, the maximum of 5 pages, which again you would never hit with this, and then it doesn't matter lined or unlined, just in dark ink, they say, so they can read it, and then roughly 8.5 by 11-inch paper. And then what you do is you would take a picture with either your tablet or smartphone of each individual page. You would upload each page individually as separate attachments. So that's really important if you choose this option, and then you click submit. The reality is the choice is yours. It does not matter. Again, any 3 of these work. It's just a matter of comfortability. So when we do the practice simulation, you can make sure you're comfortable with whatever practice you choose. But a big reminder is that once you hit submit, you cannot go back or change anything. So like, for example, if you're taking pictures of your response because you hand wrote them and you have like 3 pages and you only attach 1 and then you submit, that's going to be a really serious problem. So please be cautious of that and make sure when you hit submit, you're done, you've done everything, and then it's time to move on with your life. Couple comments about time. Time may be your biggest enemy. It's just the nature of this condensed exam. As soon as 11 a.m. hits, the time starts. All right. So like if you accidentally log in late to do the pre-check stuff, they're not going to have any sympathy for you. Everyone in the entire world is going to take the same exams at the same time. That's usually not what we see with AP exams. It's usually a different time for different time zones and whatever else. It's not what's happening here. Everyone's taking it at the exact same time. So you're taking it at 11 a.m. People in New York are taking it at 2 p.m. their time. Madrid is like 8 p.m. or something like that. So again, everyone's hitting it at the same time. No room for error. The timer is going to be posted throughout the exam. The timer is just going to be showing you how much time you have left. It is set at 50 minutes. Now you might be saying, you keep on saying 45. Yes, it's a 45-minute exam. They're giving you basically 5 minutes to upload. But as opposed to like trying to cut that away, basically they set the timer for 50. So 11 o'clock it hits, 11:50 it'll be over. At 45 minutes, so once there's 5 minutes remaining and less, the timer turns red. So all of a sudden it's like 4:59, red. Okay, that is your signal that you need to stop. Okay, it doesn't really matter how far you've gotten at this point. I mean, hopefully you've gotten relatively far. But at this point, you stop. And you upload your response in the time that remains in whatever format you've decided to do. Here's what the deal is. An incomplete response can technically still pass. It can actually technically earn a 5. Because remember, you can hit the rubric really without completing the response. Like, so for example, if you don't have a conclusion, there's no point for conclusion. Conclusion is nice. But technically, maybe you hit everything else. All right. Maybe you didn't hit the last point for like complex understanding because you didn't have enough time, but you still get a 5 anyway because they've determined that that's okay. All right, so again, the point is an incomplete response can still pass easily and can still even earn maximum score of 5. However, the problem is if you do not submit in the 50-minute response time, you do not get a score, okay? So here's what's important. If it's still uploading for some reason because the Wi-Fi is slow, but you hit the submit, whatever else, you're okay. Okay, but you need to actually go through that submission process in the 50-minute timer because if you do not, then there's no score. So, you really got to be cautious. And unfortunately, if you take an AP exam before during typical times, Proctor tells you, okay, 30 minutes remaining. It's like there's constant reminder. It's probably written on the board. This is the time remaining, whatever. The problem is under this exam structure, that's not going to be taking place. And instead, what's going to happen here is you're just responsible for your own time. However, like I said earlier, you can get a family member to help proctor time you, or maybe what you want to do is set your own timer for 45 minutes or at 11:45, and that way, just in case you miss the timer down there, something like that, say, okay, oh, another reminder here, that's all okay. There's no problem with that. AP says that's great, good strategy. So the timer is going to be there, but if you think you might miss it or something like that, these are some other options you might choose. Okay, in the very much case of the what ifs, total troubleshooting, some things to keep in mind. Number one, if you accidentally click out of your browser, first off, I do not know why you would accidentally click out of your browser, but I guess accidents do happen. Don't do that, but if you do, re-click your e-ticket link and then you can return back to the exam. So that's not that big of a deal. Okay, but again, I don't know why you click it out of the browser. Okay, the other thing that you need to do is save your document often. Google Doc automatically saves pretty quickly, so that's good. If you are using Word, you can set autosave as a feature or save every couple minutes, and that way your progress is being saved throughout this whole time, so that's okay. Actually, if you're using Word, you could write even if you didn't have internet for some reason, and then if you're using Google Docs, you could enable the feature that allows for writing offline or something like that. But again, just save it often. You're going to be okay. If your power or Wi-Fi goes out, once again, just like the browser, you can re-click the e-ticket link and you can return back to the exam. So that's not that big of a deal if it's just a brief glitch or something like that. Okay, if your Wi-Fi goes totally out for like several minutes, and you really cannot access the exam at that time, if you have massive distractions in the household that are taking you away from being able to do this exam effectively, or other issues that are really going to hinder your performance, what you can do is you can file for the alternative exam in June. This is the makeup exam. This is your very much last resort. This is like if something just totally goes wrong or whatever else. It's not that big of a deal, but you do have to file and you do have to get approved basically by AP. So one of the things that's really important to realize, and AP keeps on saying this, is that if you do not upload in the given time, you will not get a score, but you also cannot get a retest because that's like your fault basically. So again, that's a tough deal, but that's one of the reasons why the uploading process and basically stopping at the 45 minutes is so critical. Again, the reason why the exam is only 45 minutes, a few things, but one of the big things is that they're trying to minimize the chance of you having problems, basically. So if they're a 4-hour exam, the chances of you being able to maintain like a quiet environment for that whole time might be tough. Other kind of factors and issues that will come into play, so you really need to be cautious and careful of that. Okay, in conclusion, a couple of things to make in regards to St. Francis. You're excused from all your classes on exam day. This is always the typical policy. This is going to be the continued policy this year, so that's fantastic. The day is actually a day one. It's an ACE. Based on the schedule, we're going to actually be in class during or be in the exam during some of the actual class. So that's actually kind of nice. If you were really concerned about missing some of your other classes, a lot of this exam time is actually going to be allocated for this exam specifically. So that's really good to hear. Okay, what we're going to do is, although the exam starts at 11, at 10 a.m., we're going to do a Google Meet. Okay, this is for me to make sure everyone is okay. And basically, we'll kind of kumbaya moment, maybe, ease some fears, whatever else. But then this is also an opportunity for me to check in and me to make sure, okay, internet's okay, everyone's okay. And then also, if you're not there at that Google Meet, I'm going to be very concerned because I'm going to be wondering where you are. And then I'm going to be saying, okay, where's so-and-so? Okay, call so-and-so. He needs to get on this. Because if I don't see you, then I don't know if you're taking the exam. I don't know if you're in bed or whatever else. It's so quick, you can't be doing that kind of stuff. So make sure you're set to go. You eat a good breakfast or whatever. You're alert. You're ready to go for the 45 minutes. I'll only keep you for about 20 minutes. And then at about 10:20, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, we're done here. Good luck, that's what I'll say to you, and other words of encouragement. And then I'm going to give you a break briefly. This is your chance. Go to the bathroom. If you're going to be drinking water, drink water. This is another, this is your last chance to tell the family, hey, be quiet. I'm taking the exam. Chance to tell family, hey, no, Fortnite, or whatever these programs are. So this is your opportunity to do that. Right at 10:30, you're going to check into the exam. So you're going to go to your email. You're going to click the e-ticket. It's going to take you to the exam. And then this is when they're going to give you the pre-exam materials and identity verification. Again, this, I think, is going to be kind of a rigorous process to make sure you are who you say you are. And they said it's going to open right at 10:30. If you open it at 10:30, you'll have enough time to do it before the exam starts at 11. So right at 10:30, you're clicking that. Okay, not 10:32, 10:30. All right, we just don't want any problems, and we don't want, every minute is precious. So if we do this, then we take care of that. Okay, from 11 to 11:50 is the exam. We will not be in communication at all, basically, past 10:20. Okay, we will not be discussing. We will not be chatting. And from 11 to 11:50, you'll obviously be taking the exam. You'll be working hard. You'll be keeping track of the time. You'll be crafting this just great DBQ. And then at 11:50, once the exam is over, we'll go back to Google Meet. Okay, this is important because actually you can share with me what was on the exam right away. Typically, in AP, you have to wait a few days to actually share that. So this year they said, no, it's fine. You guys can talk about it right away so we can kind of see, what happened and if you were pleased with the prompt or whatever. But the more important thing that I'm doing here is I'm making sure everyone was able to complete the exam. And if anyone did not or was not able to complete the exam because of strange circumstances, something happened, Wi-Fi went out, whatever, I'm going to find out right away. And then this way we can make sure we do the proper process in order to get you the makeup exam in June so you can take the exam. But this is how I'm going to find out basically right away because we have to file this almost immediately. So this is where we're going to find that. And then at this point, again, as long as you do not have an issue that takes you from completing the exam, you're going to be done, okay? And again, we'll still have class for a few weeks, but we'll spend some time doing some other topics and whatever else, and a lot of the pressure is going to be off. But these are just some kind of reminders on exam day. Okay, last things. We can do this, okay? That's the key. Again, I'm trying to make this process as smooth as possible for you. Hopefully, I'm doing that. If you're having problems with AP emails, anything else AP related, please let me know sooner rather than later. Again, right now we're improving our DBQs. That's kind of our key focus and main agenda here. And again, we can do this. Okay, we really, really can and be successful. Last one, how relevant Rosie the Riveter from World War II. We can do it. Yes, we can. Thanks so much. And then let's get on the Google Meet and let's talk for a little bit. See ya soon.